Okay, this is the meeting of the Administrative Committee of the Monterey Peninsula Water Management District. So far, we have 2 committee members present, and we're going to check and see if the third is on as an attendee.
Yeah, there's only 2 attendees, but it's not Director Anderson.
Okay. I see that Alvin Edwards, who's the alternate, is
Mhm.
on as an attendee. So can we move him over to be a panelist as our alternate?
Okay,
And then if Amy joins, then Alvin needs to be moved off.
Okay.
do you want to try Suresh? It's not allowing me to move him
Yes.
over.
There's Amy.
Oh,
Oh,
okay.
We have Amy on?
yes.
Okay,
Good.
so all committee members are present.
Thank you. Then, again, call the meeting to order. Are there any additions or corrections to the agenda?
There is none.
Anybody speaking?
Amy, are you having trouble here? Can you hear us?
Oh,
I guess she's not able to hear us.
I can now.
Ah,
Oh, good.
All right. So all as our general counsel told us, all committee members are now present. Let's see if I see there are 2 attendees. So this is the time that the members of the public can address the committee if they wish to address any item within the district's jurisdiction at this time. If you want to speak, please raise your hand or unmute yourself.
I see no raised hands, Director Paul.
Thank you. Okay. So let's turn to our action items. And the first one, of course, is the minutes of our last meeting. I do not have any corrections. Do other directors have any corrections to the minutes, or staff or council?
I do not.
Okay, well then let us, I move that we adopt the minutes as they are. Their second?
Aye.
Software.
Sorry, I just poured a whole cup of coffee on my foot.
Oh, no.
Director Safwa, did you second that motion to adopt the
Yes,
minutes?
I do.
Thank you.
Yes.
Can we have a roll call, please?
Director Anderson,
Yes.
Director Malik,
Yes.
Director Paul.
Yes.
Motion passes 3-0.
Should we pause for
Right.
Amy to take care of the coffee spill?
That's so nice of you. I just got a whole bunch of rags and I stepped on them, and so we're done for now. Thank you. Mm,
No injuries, I hope.
Nothing serious.
Good. Okay.
Stupidity.
Let's go on to the item 2.
this next item is Stephanie Locke.
And this is discussion regarding consideration of adoption of resolution 2021-17, which amends the fees and charges table. There are 3 proposed amendments to the table, which are adding cost for Public Records Act responses. And that includes things such as copying in color, black and white, mailing costs, and providing and the media that is used to provide a electronic response. So those are all added under the subheading of the publications. And then what's currently shown on line 49 is a well registration form And that's a duplicate. It's already on the table at item 82 at this time. So that's being deleted from item 49. And then the third item is just renumbering the whole table when we add these Public Records Act response costs back in. And that is it. We're just looking for the support for the administrative committee on this item.
Any questions from directors?
Very clear.
Okay,
Yeah.
so the duplication was just a mistake, I guess.
I think somebody didn't notice that. Yes.
Yeah. And the charges for Public Records Act requests, I think someone mentioned
Actual costs and not staff time.
not staff time. Okay. Okay, well, I have no. Yeah, only one question. In the draft resolution, it says the second whereas clause, it says the ordinance 120 became effective in 2005. It doesn't say anything about subsequent amendments or updates. Does that need to be mentioned, or is it okay to omit mention?
No, I think the reason that's referred to in the resolution is that was the ordinance that allowed us to make changes by resolution. And there have been multiple changes over the years. So I don't think we need to reference all those changes.
Okay, I just wanted to be sure.
So if someone asked, what is your authority? The authority was ordinance 120.
Got it. Thank you. Okay. So I have no further questions. Any others?
I make a motion to approve.
Second?
Great. Let's have a roll call, please.
Director Paul,
Yes.
Director Anderson,
Yes.
Director Malik.
Yes.
Motion passes 3-0.
All right. Item 3.
All right, this item is mine. The directors, the action before you is to consider adding the position of Human Resources Coordinator / Contract Specialist to the district's organization chart. We've tried a few number of things when the full-time Human Resources Analyst retired from the district. We evaluated the needs at that time and we decided a full-time HR person is not needed or was not needed. So we went out and sought a contract with a outsourcing company called Regional Government Services. That worked out well until recently when they've had some staff changes, and because geographically our location, they are not serving as much as they do. They have a much higher, larger presence up in the Bay Area as opposed to the peninsula. So it's hard for them to find staffing as well to fulfill our needs. Previously, we used to have the HR person, the contracted person that would come in at least twice a week. And then as a needed basis, when we had our HR need get bumped up, she would show up as well. And then recently, due to the staff changes at RGS, the current person that was helping us, she was only on site once a week. And now due to some changes in their workload, they notified us that they're only going to be servicing us about once every 2 weeks. So that doesn't work for us. We don't need a full-time HR person like all 40 hours a week, but we do need a HR person that's here about half the time. So let's say about 20 hours. And that's why it worked when they were serving about 2 days a week. So we also need a contract person. And again, the contract person, and we've never tried this before, but a contract person, we don't need them for 40 hours a week, but we do need them for about half the time. And so we kind of like went around and thought about this and said, why don't we get a HR coordinator / contract specialist that serves both in dual capacity role as the HR person and contract specialist. Also, we will not forego the RGS contractual support because they will still be providing us high-level HR work. So in the event of any higher HR needs, we will definitely seek out RGS for their support. And they are willing to provide that support. It's just that they don't have a person that can sit in the office. I mean, they can provide us virtual support. And so they still are able and in the capacity of providing virtual support to us. So that's why we decided that 50-50 HR coordinator / contract specialist would work out for us. And we had budgeted for a contract person at range 26 in the budget. We've carried it for about 2 years. We did not make any changes last year due to COVID. And now that we are kind of like on the tail end of the, hopefully on the tail end of the COVID, this is the time to go ahead and fill that position. So this is what we are asking the committee to do, is approve it so that it can be moved to the board so that we can add the HR coordinator / contract specialist position to the district's current organization chart. And then we will go ahead, outsource, go outside and see if we can hire somebody. We will actually be posting this in-house for at least a week to see if any individual from within the agency wants to apply for this, and see if they want to be promoted to this position. If it is, we'll definitely give that chance. But if nobody is willing to do that, then we will go ahead and seek somebody from outside.
Are we allowed to proceed that way? First limited, offering it first in-house?
We have done that, yes.
Yeah. What's an example of high-level HR work that we might still go outside for?
When we get into some disciplinary issues, when we have some breaches in like harassment issues or something like that, or a third-party investigation that needs to be done for HR, like a sexual harassment claim or any type of claim, then we will definitely bring in RGS for the support. And we will also bring in, utilize their support when we go for recruitments, because we have modeled a recruitment process where basically they create the flyers for us, they post it to all the outside agencies, they collect the application, the resume, because they have the tools to do that. And so they will do all that legwork for us as well in that regard.
Oh, I have a question.
Yes,
Please.
correct.
Director Malik?
How much was the consultant charging annually?
So we had a $70,000 contract with RGS, but we never exceeded that 70,000. Historically, last 3 or 4 years, we've only utilized about $35,000 to $40,000 of the contract.
So the only reason we are seeking a full-time employment is because they cannot give us a service they used to provide?
Correct.
You have other questions, Director Malik?
Not at this time.
And Director Anderson?
So the HR coordinator / contract specialist, that is combining what RGS used to do and then another function which somebody else did, the contract specialist?
Yeah, so the contract portion of the work right now, it's kind of like worked out by each individual employee that's actually doing the contract. So like, for example, Dave's contract, he does the contract himself. And so we are kind of like paying at a higher level, much higher level than what I would like to see somebody doing all the legwork on the contract. So anybody that needs a contract support right now, they actually do it themselves.
So this will save money? Or, I mean, if Dave doesn't have to do the contract, then he can do some more important work for him.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
That's part of the idea, is that you're gonna pull it into a single person.
Correct. And we will also streamline the process, because there's not just the doing the contract, but with the contract itself, I mean, there's different types of contracts we have, like the grant contracts, the regular construction contracts. We go for RFPs, RFQs, bid work. And also all of that associated with that, there's also the insurance requirements, making sure the simple things like logistical stuff, like getting the contract signed and then getting the contracts filed. So all of those work right now, we rely on individual employee to kind of like go through from getting the contract done to making sure the contract is done and then passing it over to admin services. In this case, we'd like to streamline the process so that there's only one gatekeeper, and then that person, runs everything related to the contract.
One more question. So would RGS still be they'd just be on a as needed basis?
The nice thing with RGS contract is that they don't need a retainer. They basically do a time and material services. So the contract that we have right now will stay in place. And so basically, just like what they were doing with us, which is all the time and material they provided to us, that's how they build us. Going forward, that'll be the same thing. Is as we need them, we bring them in. They will only charge us for the services that they provide.
So you're just doing kind of an estimate for the annual budget.
On the RGS side, we're not changing the contract. So the contract, we had come to the board initially and said, we'd like to get a $75,000 contract. So that contract amount will stay for this fiscal year, even though we will not utilize that amount. And then the cost estimate for this position, which says $93,850, that's the entire salary and benefits for the whole year. So here we are in October, most likely, let's say we bring somebody in from November. So it'll only be about, 6, 7, 8 months, well, for this year, but the fully loaded cost for this position is going to be $93,850.
And we won't be spending the 70,000 on RGS, so.
No, we have, even when we utilized the entire services, we never got a bill from them for 75.
Thank you.
And you say in your memo that the new position is funded in our current budget.
Yes, it is in the budget.
Yeah.
Question. So you answered my first question since you said that this is already budgeted. But the second question is, looks like we have an open book with RTS that they can tap into, and that will be an additional cost. So is that also budgeted?
Yes, the entire 75,000 or 70,000 for RGS is budgeted. And it's not sort of like an open book, because they don't just perform any work. They basically work on our instructions, Director Malek. So if we have any work for them, we will tell them what to do. So it's not like they have kind of like a register running and they just send us a bill. It's basically, we will know what work we are authorizing them to do. But
So
in the event, let's just say in the event we get RGS to do some services and we hire this in-house person, both of the work are budgeted at the full level. And when we go to do our mid-year budget in January/February, then we will be revising those amounts based on where we stand at that time.
So why do we need them if we are hiring a full-time position that is supposed to be taking care of all the odds and ends of such a position?
So this is if you see from the first paragraph to the second paragraph, we are not hiring a human resources analyst, which is a much higher level. We are hiring a human resources coordinator. And so there's a little difference there. Coordinator basically deals with sort of like the logistical stuff, taking care of some benefit questions from the employees, any I lost my chain of thought there, but any paper pushing type of thing related to HR. And, if we have workers' comp injury, they do all of the phone calls, make phone calls with the insurance administrator and deals with that. So this is not a higher level HR person that we are hiring. And that's where we need the HR high level support, because if we go out and seek a high level HR person, most likely we will not be able to get a part-time high level HR person. You will most likely be getting a full-time HR person at the higher level. So the salary would be much higher than this. And then you'll also need a contract person as well. And so that's why we kind of like try to blend both of those workload into one job description.
And the higher level stuff is just going to be done by our RGS on an as needed basis.
On an as needed basis. And historically, over the last 3 or 4 years, we haven't had any high level issues that arose. I mean, the last one I remember we had a claim like that was about 2.5, 3 years ago, where they had to do an interview and all that process. It's very limited. I mean, we don't like run into those kind of issues or scenarios every month.
A good sign.
We have a good pool of employees, yes.
Very good. And it's a relatively small one too. Do you anticipate any trouble finding a candidate or candidates with the full skill sets that you're looking for? And if so, have you thought about a need for training, a possible need for training?
Yeah, we've given that some thought, but once we go out, we'll know. But with the training itself, the existing HR consultant from RGS, she will be available to train the individual. And then we will also have virtual trainings available from RGS as well. So the training portion of it is definitely available to train the new person. And then all of our internal work process, workflow, the individual, when they come on board, it'll take them some time, just to learn the processes, but shouldn't be very difficult.
So will some of that training be up to you to do?
No, it will all be the HR, the current HR person that we have. Some of the workflow processes internally, I'll be involved with that, but for the most part, it'll be the current contracted HR person.
And if training is needed specifically for on contract rules and management, that will be available.
Yes.
Yeah.
And we were just talking about it. We had a meeting just last week on contracts, templates and stuff. So this new person, individual, will be involved with that, and they will definitely be in communication with the legal counsel's office as well, relative to the contract part of the templates and work.
Yeah, I was actually just about to ask if sometimes regarding contracts, there's a need to consult counsel or counsel. Does that come up sometimes?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. Other questions?
Me.
Well, I recommend we approve that we approve the recommendation of staff and recommend this action to the board.
Second,
Have a vote, please.
Director Malik.
Yeah.
Director Anderson,
yes.
Director Paul.
Yes.
Motion passes 3-0.
Here, Paul, would you like to ask if there is any public comment on these first three items that have been discussed?
I just remembered that I failed to ask. Thank you for that reminder. If there is a member of the public that wishes to comment on any of the first three items, please raise your hand or unmute yourself too. If we don't have anyone on the phone, no, just
No, just the two.
And I
attending.
see no raised hands.
thank you. Okay, let's go on to the next item.
Number 4 is Jonathan Lear.
Thanks, Suresh. Committee members, I do want to, before we go into this, I wanted to point out that I did make a mistake in my math in writing this note. Greg has been employee of the district for 30 years, and the 3 years prior to that, he was at Casitas Water District. And so he has had a 33-year career. 30 of those years have been at the district. So I wanted to make that point of clarification, because if you do the math, it's 30 years, not 33. But all of that being the same, the meat of the note is that we've had a person filling this role in the district, gaining more and more responsibility, and over the last 15 years has basically run the metering program, all of the meters that engaging locations that are where flow is measured in any of the watersheds that the district monitors. He has let us know that his last day is going to be December 30th. And so we are moving on. We are meeting and talking and trying to find kind of the best path forward. A little bit like Suresh, we were saying, Greg has been here for 30 years in advance up through the ranks, and to try to refill a position at that high of a level, there's a high unlikely that there's somebody in the peninsula area or something, or you'd be looking at trying to take somebody from out of the area from another water district. we do have, we would like to convert this position. This position was a hydrologist position, and as Greg came up through the ranks and gained more seniority, he was reclassed into the coordinator of this program. The idea is to bring the surface water program completely underneath my supervision as the water division manager, and hire another hydrologist. Where these two hydrologists, we just offered a hiring letter, and it was accepted for the previous position. We were a hydrologist that we were out for, and the idea would be to go out again and recruit at 2 levels, where it could be assistant or associate, depending on the level of experience. The previous position, we had converted the hydrology technician, and so we wanted to just seek to fill that at the low position to kind of take that. But this position, because we're converting from a higher level position down, we wanted to open it at both and possibly attract somebody with a little bit more experience. There is some cost saving to this, just due to the simple difference in the salary ranges of the positions. And so I think that this does do 3 things, which is replace a person leaving in the division, bring all of the functions of the Greg functioned highly independently, and would largely just work with me with budgetary needs and or IT problems that he was having. But this would bring this program completely underneath my supervision as the manager, and would allow me to utilize and cross-train more people to move around through the different functions of the Water Resources Division. And then it would also realign the division to what it was before Greg had reclassified himself. So that would be our recommendation.
So I need clarification on a few things.
Okay.
First of all, you say, well, I think there's just a mistake in the recommendation part of your memo, where you say you want to convert the hydrology tech position, and I think you meant the coordinator.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah. Okay. And you say something about bringing the surface water hydrologist position under your supervision. Where is it now?
The program the surface water monitoring program is under the Water Resources Division, but it's under the Water Resources Division where there's a program coordinator level person that is running that program. So the ultimate decisions and what happens with the program and the budgetary components of it with the hydrography program coordinator level. I'm largely involved in the budgeting and deciding the staffing of that program, but the technical decisions of that program sit at the hydrography program coordinator level. You know, what to do with gauges if they break, how to go about fixing them, how to interpret data. This is something that I know how to do as a hydrogeologist, which is, you know, what my technical training is in. So I have the capacity to do that. So it would be bringing some of those technical decisions and the technical kind of more day-to-day decision-making components of that network would now be under my supervision rather than a coordinator supervision.
So would we be moving a position from one division to another?
No, it would be this position is the hydrography program coordinator position is my employee, and this converted position would also be my employee. Okay.
And there would no longer be a hydro tech position in the division, is that right?
Yeah, I'm sorry for that. It's just supposed to say hydrography coordinator.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know, I understand that, but I just to be clear, I printed out the org chart so I could have a visual for myself, since I'm not familiar. I haven't been here very long, but so anyway, we will no longer have a hydrology tech position, right?
That's correct. There will not be one.
Yeah. Okay. And those are my, oh yes, one more question. And that is when I looked at the job descriptions and qualifications for the two levels, associate and hydrologist and assistant hydrologist, one emphasizes the assistant hydrologist addresses wells and the ASR program primarily, although it also has a list of surface water related responsibilities. Anyway, the two job descriptions are very different. One seems to be primarily for surface water studies and the other more for the wells and the ASR. So was that intentional?
Yeah, there's a little bit different levels of decision making and independence and judgment calls that you need to make in working in the surface water and also with ASR, kind of understanding what mainly it's level of experience, and as you get to those levels of experience, it's what I would feel comfortable trusting people more with as they go up. But it's experience, and someone with 10 years of experience at a different water district will need to come and learn the nuances of our water district. Somebody that doesn't operate water programs, obviously it's going to be more of what they have experience with, and then cross-training them on the other aspects. But I think it's more a division of the higher level position. Those duties have been set there because they require more experience in gaining in judgment.
I see. Thank you. All right. Thank you. Those are my questions to, yes, Director Malik.
So do I understand it correctly that this position is going to save the district money and this position is already in our budget?
This position is in our budget as a hydrography program coordinator at a certain range. And so the hydrography coordinator position is budgeted for this year, and it's at a certain range. So the cost savings go, because when we convert this position, we would convert it to a lower range, and the savings, if we were to hire it at the associate level, the savings between those two ranges is that almost $24,000. And if you were to hire it at the assistant level, the difference between the current budgeted range for the hydrography program coordinator and the assistant hydrology is almost the $38,000 annual savings. So that is the difference.
Thank you.
And you also point out in your memo that this would be hiring someone into a position that with a career ladder with potential for long-term.
Yes, and it was that position. And if you come in at the lowest assistant hydrology level and you go all the way up through all of the steps, it's about 12 to 13 year process. But then Greg was here for 30 years, so he reclassed himself out of that hydrologist position.
Yeah, thank you. Director Anderson.
Yeah, I want to clear something up for myself here. This makes a whole lot of sense to shift things so that you have ladder positions and people who are, learning new things and moving up. So it makes sense to me to do. My one question is, are you going to be short one person? I mean, as soon as Greg retires, you're going to hire one person at either one of those levels. If you hire somebody at, let's say, an assistant level, are you going to be missing that person in the middle category, or do you have somebody there at the
so the new structure? I'll take the two-part question is the reason we're bringing this note to you now is so that we can start our recruitment in November. And then when Greg leaves, we can have someone come right in, you know, very close, because the winter time, when it starts raining, of course, you get busy measuring stream flow and you get busy operating projects. And that's when we need the most workforce, highest workforce. So to anticipate that, this is why we're bringing it to you now, so we can parallel our recruitment as we're offboarding Greg and learning. So, you know, I've been working with Greg and figuring out exactly exactly all the duties that he does for the district as a coordinator. And so if I get the assistant, if we hire an assistant to replace Greg's position, the Water Resources Division will have an associate hydrologist and 2 assistant hydrologists. It will be the same amount of bodies that it is right now, just slightly restructured. And that if we do have to shift around some high level and low level duties, we're trying to build a division that will allow that shifting around. And so I do have someone that can perform high level analyses for me and that right now. And so it is a thing where, you know, eventually these people, whether they come in, if they come in at the associate, that means that they're trained with the experience to give these high level duties to. If they don't, then they climb the career ladder and eventually become that, and they get coached coming up through that, so they are ready for that when the time comes.
Okay, so you can fill all levels that you need with just one hire, whichever it is, assistant or associate.
Correct. And I just didn't want to limit the district's possibility if there was someone, you know, the higher level position would have to come from, you know, the county or, you know, Pajaro Valley or city of San, or so, you know, somewhere where they've already got like 15 years experience or something like that, where they know this type of stuff, and it's just looking for maybe a change in geography or something like that. You don't know if that's out there. And then the lower level position is going to come from somebody that's, you know, out of school and has worked a couple years and is looking to get into water resources and hasn't quite found their way into water resources where they actually want to work.
Thank you.
I'm really glad that you're planning ahead in this way. It's good for the organization. Any further questions?
Public comment?
I was going to ask, I have a hard time remembering whether to call for public comment before we make a motion or after. Which is it?
I don't think it's going to make much difference. If you'd like to have the motion before you do your roll call and hear from the public, that's fine.
Okay, so either way is all right.
Either way.
Okay, so I doubt there's public comment, but if anyone member of the public wants to comment, please do so now. And let us know you want to comment.
Maybe an applicant is waiting.
Maybe, if somebody saw that, what's on the agenda.
I see no raised hands, Director Paul.
Thank you. Okay, well, I move to recommend to the board approving this request from staff.
Second.
All right, thank you. Let's have a roll call vote then.
Director Anderson,
Yes.
Director Paul,
Yes,
Director Malik.
Yes.
Motion passes 3-0.
thank you. Item
And this-
5.
And this next item is Larry Hampton.
Good afternoon, members of the committee. This item is to request funding and approval to enter into a contract with Reef Manufacturing to manufacture and deliver 5 fiberglass tanks for the Sleepy Hollow sealant rearing facility. The district placed the required advertising in the Monterey County Weekly 3 times, placed the project on the ebidboard.com website, which goes out to all across California. It's a web service that contractors and others pay for to see what projects are available to bid on. It's free for public agencies to advertise projects on ebidboard.com. And I reached out to several manufacturers who specialize in making these tanks. We did receive one bid. I was surprised that we only received one. It is a bid that's responsive to the district's requirements, and actually came in a bit less than the engineer's estimate. So I don't have to build the tanks if you approve the funding. And it's $43,000, just under $43,500 to manufacture these tanks and deliver them. And staff is asking for a contingency that would bring it up to $48,000. I'm not really anticipating problems with the manufacturing process, but delivery during the winter to Sleepy Hollow it can be dicey. So in case we do get heavy rains, which would be great, except it could block the road to Sleepy Hollow, there's a contingency in there to deal with issues such as that. This project does not need to be, or it has an exemption from CEQA for manufacturing and delivery of these tanks. And the tanks are to replace tanks that have outlived their useful life. Some of them are cracking, some of the support systems are failing on the tanks. And this will be part of an upgrade to the rearing channel and to the quarantine system, hopefully to be put in place this winter and spring. And with that, I guess I could answer any questions.
Thank you, Larry, and your memo is very clear. Any idea why we only got one bid?
Great question. I talked directly with a representative of, I think it's Aqua, Integrated Aqua. And the guy said he was, he said it's right down their alley. And they're the same firm that supplied the district with a UV unit. And they do all sorts of aquatic fisheries types of projects. I don't know, perhaps it's just not big enough. 5 tanks is kind of a special order. Perhaps these manufacturers didn't have the right equipment to make these. I don't know. It turns out that this is the reef manufacturing actually gave me the drawings for the tanks and said, here, this is what you should use. And so I modified those drawings, and I mean, they have at their manufacturing facility, they have all the stuff to manufacture 8-foot tanks. So I'm guessing that others maybe didn't have the right equipment to manufacture the tanks. I'm not real sure. It seems like it would be a pretty easy fill-in project for almost any manufacturer, but we just got the one.
Maybe COVID-related problems, who knows? And I just want to be sure I'm clear on one thing, and that is about the contingency. You mentioned that costs for delivery could go up because of conditions, but the price for the tanks themselves, that won't change. Is that correct? That's set by the contract and not subject to change. Is that right?
Well, that's set by the bid, and set by the contract. There is a process where the manufacturer submits drawings, and I can review those, or I can have our consultant Tetra Tech review them. And if we see something that somehow we missed in the bid documents, we need to add something or need to make a modification. It just turns out that whatever we had specified wasn't quite right. At that point, if we make a change to the specifications, then we could be into using contingency. I don't anticipate that, but these are custom fit tanks, and we're doing our best to replace what's out there. But as we go through this process of upgrading that area, we may find information that we don't have right now that could affect the manufacture of the tank. Oh, and I did want to add that the current tanks are not insulated. They don't have an insulated top. They're subject to warming. The new tanks would be insulated and they would have a covered top. And so it would be a lot easier to cool the tanks down with the refrigeration units.
Sounds like a big improvement. Well, thank you very much. Those are, you've answered all my questions. Other questions?
Yes.
Director Malik.
Why are these custom made? Why can't we buy standard size tanks?
Well, they're a particular depth for one. They're exactly 3 feet. They have custom penetrations. So we have 4 penetrations through the side of the tank for air, 2 for water, and 1 for monitoring purposes. And we have a specific design for the drain that has to be fish friendly and also the right size in order to drain quickly enough for use. So there are 8-foot tanks out there. They're not insulated. They don't have the penetrations, and they didn't have the drains that I was looking for. So what I saw was most of the fisheries outfits are using similar fiberglass tanks that are generally custom made, and the insulation is actually it's a 3-part process that the manufacturer was telling me about, where they hand cut the insulation to fit in the circular and the annulus of the fiberglass tank. So they do the inside of the tank, they hand cut the insulation to fit the outside of the tank, and then they fiberglass the outside. So it's kind of a specialized bit of work. Obviously, there are fiberglass FRP manufacturers out there, but like I say, I mean, I went out to several of them, reached out specifically to the ones that showed that they make these kind of tanks, and we only received one. I did not see a standard 8-foot tank that would fit the requirements that the district has for this particular application.
Thank you.
Director Anderson.
You said it has a top that's insulated. Is it this? And then did you just say that there's sides that are insulated too? So that there's more than one thickness of fiberglass on the sides? You know, the circumference of the tank?
Yeah, the tank sides will be about 3 inches thick.
Okay.
And the top it'll be kind of like a hot tub top.
Yeah.
We haven't come to terms of whether it's going to be like a fiberglass top or like a vinyl covered top.
Mhm.
One thing we have to do is it can't be too heavy.
Yeah.
I mean, one person has to be able to lift the top. So we have to be careful about, we may even cut down on the insulated top if it's too heavy.
Or hinge it. I've seen hinge one.
Right. Well, right now, the fiberglass top would be 80 pounds, 40 pounds each side,
It's heavy.
which, well, especially it's kind of awkward, if you think about an 8-foot round tub, and you're trying to lift that up and then move to the side with it at the same time. It's a bit awkward. So,
Yeah.
If we could get it down to 25 pounds, that's a much more doable kind of thing.
Yeah.
Especially they're being used constantly. So you're lifting the top maybe several times a day. And, if it were something where you've got 2 people out there and you're only doing it once in a while, it wouldn't be a big deal. But often there's only one biologist out there that's operating the facility.
Well, since the temperature is so important to the salmonids, it's great to do it. You're spending money on chillers and so forth, so it's great.
Yeah, we hope to improve the operation at that particular place.
Okay,
Well, I
let's see. Okay, thank you. Shall we see if there's Any public comment on this item? Can you,
See no raised hands, Director Paul.
thank you. Okay, is there a motion on this one?
Yes, I move to move ahead with this neat project that the fish need.
Second. Let's vote, please.
Director Malik.
Yeah.
Director Anderson,
Yes.
Director Paul.
Yes,
Motion passes 3-0.
All right, thank you.
thank you. What's our next item?
Next item, number 6, will again be John.
Thanks again, Suresh. This is related to something we had planned to do last year and never completed due to being down one person and COVID. We just hired it out last year through a contractor, and we really didn't have all that much operations in water year 2020 anyways at the ASR program. But the background on this is that the district has had multiple water rights that are either associated with the New Los Padres Dam and have been split off and associated with ASR projects. The board just, I think it was in 2019, we filed an extension of time to perfect our water right, so we can get a really wet water year, and we can prove that we can use the amount of water and try to get closer to the face value of our water right, which is part of the process you move through. And then the Sleepy Hollow facility uses a riparian water right to divert water and circulate water through the rearing facility. In 2017, a Senate bill changed the water rights reporting law in a way that they have different methodologies that you are to estimate water use. You know, if you have a dam, you can use stage and discharge volume relation or stage volume relationships. But with projects like Sleepy Hollow or ASR, the state board would prefer meters. But the problem with meters that they were trying to clean up in 2017 is that they can be variable in their accuracy. And so there was a law that was in the Senate bill in 2017. It required a calibration program for your meters to check if they have gone out of calibration. So when you're reporting, we have developed a program where every couple of years, when ASR is injecting, there are magnetic meters that can totalize in the frontwards version pathway, and that would be if a well is recovering to the system, or in the reverse direction, and that would be if a well is actively injecting. And so because the diversions out of the river are counted at the mag meters at the wellheads of the ASR wells, we need to check the accuracy of the reverse direction on all of the ASR wellheads. And there are consultants that do stuff like this, but the plan had been to get us to take a class at Department of Drinking or Department of Water Resources and become certified to do it. So we are able to we have the correct certifications in-house to now do this in-house. And we would like to purchase a meter that can be used both on Sleepy Hollow and on ASR to check the accuracy of this. And then you actually enter in the dates that you've done it, under whose certification you've done it when you file your water rights. And it's just another component that they've added to it. And we'd like to bring this functionality from trying to coordinate with consultants and schedule them when it starts raining and the projects are operating, because the meters really don't spin backwards unless we're actually running ASR. That can just be a duty that we can do as we operate ASR. ASR. And then also the same wise is ASR usually operates in the winter time. And the ASR program could have ownership of that meter. And then in the summertime, when Sleepy Hollow was operating, we could pass it over to Sleepy Hollow operators and have them check the accuracy of their meters. And so this would be something that would, based on the, there's different costs of the meters. We've seen them between $4,000 and $5,000. But we want to talk to the manufacturers, because these sonic meters, they're sensitive to material, or there's ductile iron or PVC and different sizes. So we want to make sure that the one that we get will be within the accuracy to meet all the needs of the piping at Sleepy Hollow and the piping at ASR. And that we think that that's between $4,000 and $5,000, but would like to interview the manufacturers and find and target the right one that would be the best for us. But depending on the $4,000 or $5,000, and versus using the consultant, it will probably break even in about 5 years of us doing the program on our own. And the life of these meters are 15 or so years. So we think it's also a long-term cost savings.
Thank you. You've just answered some of my questions. You said the life of the meters is expected to be 15 years. Have you looked into the warranty offered by the manufacturers?
No, they're typically 1 to 2 years. So that, yeah, it would be something that you can send back in for repair. I think more the idea is if we could bring it in-house, there's also the analysis of the break even is just comparing basically the cost of the consultant to come out and do the work and the cost of the actual meter. But then what it doesn't include is there's obviously staff time associated with using the meter, but then there's also staff time associated with coordinating with the consultant, paying the consultant, opening the gate for them. And you're usually standing there the whole time it's going on anyways, so you might as well be doing it. So
If we bring it in-house, do we need to notify the State Water Board?
they will be notified when every year in April we have to file our water rights, and you don't have to check the calibration of your meter every year. You have to have an accepted plan, and so we're doing ours every couple years, and it's also kind of also we've put in our plan that it is somewhat dependent on the weather, if we're actually able to operate or not. And so it would, when you file your water rights in April, the thing that would change would be, now it would be a name of one of our employees and their certification number that allows them to do it, instead of the name of the consultant and the certification of the consultant. So I don't think we notify them as much as we just fill it out who did it.
I see. Okay, thank you. Other questions on this?
I think this is a slam dunk for $5,000. How often have we had a request for that low a number for something that we need? So it's really cool. And I also want to thank you for teaching me a new verb, totalize. I don't know how else I'll use it, but that's a really cool word.
Same here, new to me.
So thank you, Jonathan.
Thank you.
Other questions?
Plan.
Okay, shall we see if there's a member of the public who wishes to comment on this item?
I see no raised hands, Director Paul.
Thank you. Okay, do we have a motion to approve this, to recommend approving this request?
I will make that motion. I think this makes wonderful sense, and the fact that they can get a meter that could serve two purposes, whether it's ASR or the fish habitat. Wonderful.
Well, I'll second that motion. Does seem like a good idea and helpful to staff. Any further comment? Okay, then let's take the vote, please.
Director Malik,
Yes.
Director Anderson,
Yes.
Director Paul.
Yes.
Motion passes 3-0.
Thank you. Item 7, Water Master
This is
Service.
again,
Agreement.
John.
Yeah, let me flip to that item. Okay. This is to set up the new professional services agreement. You had seen this before. We had received a version from the Water Master and passed version back and forth in developing it. It came to the administrative committee in August 9th, and we then sent it, and then it was approved by the board. We sent it over to the Water Master, and they added some different verbiage and took it to their board and passed and accepted that. And so then it came back to me with different verbiage that we noticed, and we asked the general counsel if the verbiage was acceptable, and our answer was, if anything's changed, that's not what the board approved. So we're bringing it back to the changed one, that just the council, it was, the changes were acceptable to administrative review and to legal review. So we're just trying to find something that is acceptable to both the district and the Water Master. And so this is the version that the Water Master has said that they are comfortable with.
So are the changes substantive?
They, in one of the liability language, they added 3 instances of the word grossly.
You know, maybe when this comes to the board for the actual board meeting, if we could have a red line version, just so it would be a lot, you know, it's very helpful to see what changed.
They added grossly in front of all of the instances of negligent in the indemnification clauses. So it said we will not indemnify for negligence, and they wanted it to say grossly negligent acts instead of just negligent acts.
Question,
Yes, Director Mullet.
council, what's your opinion?
Well, what Mr. Laredo said the first time was the board approved a version. It was modified, and even though the modifications may be seen as insignificant, it's not what the board approved. So in this instance, I think I'm hearing you saying the only modifications, John, were that they added the word grossly 3 times in front of the word negligence.
That's correct.
That's it. So it seems like an exercise that is somewhat unneeded, but the reality is the board is the ultimate decider. So if the committee could make their recommendation, and then it would be a consent item, and do show red line. I mean, it's so insignificant that I see it as a consent item. That will save some time.
How do you quantify the difference between grossly negligence and negligence? Is there a
That's
scale?
what courts do.
Can we
that's what
measure it
people
with the meter we just approved?
Yeah. Have it serve get the most out of our meters, huh? Our investment.
The thing that it seemed to me was it was indemnifying the district and giving the district even more I don't know. It was saying that they would not, if the difference between negligence and gross negligence, we would have to do something more egregious for them to have a problem with us. So it seemed that they were even giving us more.
It's to our advantage, yes.
Right.
So, but I think procedurally, if the committee recommends that, it can easily go on the consent calendar, but it would help if the red line showed those 3 tiny little edits.
Yes, thank you. And yes, certainly we can recommend putting it on the consent calendar. Thank you for that suggestion.
I grossly approve.
I'd like to ask a question. This is just, they're talking about the liability. insurance and so forth, are they requesting a separate liability policy? Or can it just be part of the liability policy that the district already has?
It's the same policy the district already has, but they
Right.
basically are going to be getting a certificate of insurance in their name. And that's a routine process that we require our
Yeah.
contractors to do as well.
Okay, thank you.
Any further questions or comments? Okay.
I make a motion to recommend approval.
I second it, and I'm glad that we're finally here with an agreement with the water master.
Yes. All right, let's vote.
Director Paul,
Yes.
Director Anderson,
Yes,
Director Malik.
Yes.
Motion passes 3-0.
Thank you. And now we're up to 8, Treasurer's Report for July.
This would be mine. So this is the adoption of the treasurer's report for the month of July. During the month of July, we did do disbursements in the amount of a little over $1.6 million. That did include a little over $26,000 in conservation rebates. Exhibit 8A, which is on page 57 of the packet, that is the actual treasurer's report for the month of July. And you'll see we started the month with $17.4 million, and we did end the month with $17.7 million. So we have been cutting a lot of checks now, and it all exceeds to the tune of $1 million every month now. And the simple reason for that is we have about $700,000 or $800,000 every month in the pure water Monterey purpose water cost, and so that is the largest part of the disbursements now. But every month we pay for the water, and then we turn around and bill CalAm for the water
Absolutely.
sales. Exhibits B, C, and D are the disbursement register, the payroll register, and Exhibit D is the unaudited version of July financial statements. So with that, I'll answer any questions.
So we're the contributions to PERS, CalPERS are reflect the increase in contributions that the board approved recently. Is that right?
The contribution to PERS, basically that is the unfunded liability that is the district's share, and it goes around every year. There's 2 payment options. Either we pay it every month, 1/12 of the payment, but that will cost us about 7% in interest, or we pay it all upfront in July, and that saves us 7% in interest. So it does save us about $15,000 or something in interest cost, but that's every year that we have to pay. And the every year dollar amount is actually structured by PERS. And when I do my GASB 68 report in December, that is when I also address the unfunded liability as well and say what next year's payments and all that is going to be.
So this is the normal annual contribution, not the additional contribution. that
No,
the-
it's a normal unfunded liability contribution. There's two portions of that payment. One is the lump sum payment or a monthly payment, and then in addition to that, there's a percentage payment based on employee payroll.
Mhm. Thank you. Other questions?
I do have a question or two. This, just looking at the payees, what do we do with Central Coast fly fishing?
We buy, Thomas, are you on the line? Do you recall what we buy from Central Coast?
Yeah, Central Coast Live Fishing provides the district with waders.
Oh.
And we
Oh.
do a mix of
Okay.
purchasing of waders. Sometimes we get waders from Bass Pro or Cabela's, but we also
Okay.
get waders that are for traditional, longer term staff there, because they last a little bit longer coming from Central Coast. There's a slightly higher quality wader than what we've been getting for our seasonal employees.
Thank you. And one other charge, Zim Industries, it's a fairly large one. It's a little over 100,000. What is that?
Yeah, I can answer that one. That Zim Industries is a C-57 contractor, so they're a well driller and can work on water wells, and that is the lump sum to rehabilitate ASR1 that happened earlier this year.
Thank you. Oh, I have no other questions.
Any, let's see if the public, there are any public comments at this time on this item?
I see no raised hands, Director Paul.
You. I move that we recommend adoption of the treasurer's report for July.
Second,
Thank you. Let's have the
And
vote.
so, go ahead.
Director Malik,
Yes.
Do you want to say something?
Director
Oh.
Paul,
Yes,
Director Anderson.
yes,
Motion passes 3-0.
thank you. Thank you for that, Suresh.
So next two items, items numbers 9 and 10 are just the informational items.
Mhm.
And if there's any questions, we can take on that, but those are basically the progress report on contracts and then also the status report on Mr. J.
Yes, and I've reviewed them. I don't have any questions at this time. What about other directors? Do you have questions?
not on those. I do have a question on the draft agenda on one
Mhm.
item.
Mhm.
Are we there?
Yeah, we
Not
can, unless Director Malik has questions on the information items.
I
then-
don't.
Okay. Okay, we're ready then for the draft agenda, and Dave Stoll sent us a few revisions hours ago.
Right.
That's why I can't find it.
Item 12 will be moved to November.
Right.
Item, which is the first reading. Item
Okay.
16 is the water purchase agreement, which will be deleted. And then there will be a new item added, which would be consider recommending formation of a redistricting committee for the realignment of district voter divisions.
Yes. On the cleanup ordinance, I just have a comment. I think it's fine that in-house we refer to it as cleanup ordinance, but maybe we could call it update ordinance or something.
It actually has a name, so yeah, and Joelle, you can pull that off the staff report or the draft ordinance that was submitted for water demand.
My question is on the consent calendar items 6 and 7. Are these not the same thing or reversed in order? Because the first is expenditure and funds for the sonic flow meter. And the second one is allocating funds to the purchase of the sonic flow meter.
It's the same item.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's just one. All right, thank you.
And so everything will be renumbered
Yeah,
based on these changes. Is there any possibility there'll be a need for, I know we have closed session on the 18th to discuss the general manager evaluation process. Is there any chance we're going to need time for litigation? Fran, do you remember when the, let's see, we're still waiting for the Superior Court to issue its decision in the CEQA litigation, right? We don't.
Correct.
Right, we don't
Judge
know.
Wills has not issued that yet. Once it's issued, that becomes a public document.
Right.
So it could be mentioned under attorney's report
Mhm.
if there's anything to report.
Okay.
On the, we have the Taxpayers Association.
Yeah.
And right now I'm trying to think, I don't think will be formally denying their claim this week. That's procedural matter. And then it's a 30-day period from once we are served. And Mr. Colantuno will accept service on behalf of the district. So there would be nothing new on that per se by the October meeting. Possibly by the November meeting, procedurally as to how we're going to move forward and what we want to file. And then on the complaint action at the PUC, we have until the 21st to have what the judge calls a meet and confer, which is a less formal gathering of the parties, and then also file a case management. I'm circulating potential dates to the parties, and I'm waiting for responses. Because today is a holiday, some offices may be closed, but I'm trying to get that set. So by the time we meet on the 18th, I'm not sure what I would know and whether it merited additional time, but we could amend the agenda. Because if it's not known until shortly before that period of time, that is something that we are allowed to do. So other than right now, the only thing I see with certainty is Mr. Garcia and the general manager's evaluation.
Okay.
And we'll just play it by ear on the others. Okay.
No, thank you. That sounds like a very good plan. And if we only need to discuss the general manager evaluation at that closed session, that will be good. So we won't be divided, our attention will be divided on more things. Any other questions or comments about the agenda or about the draft agenda for the 18th? And also any directors, any items to place on the agenda of the next meeting of the admin committee?
Not for me.
I think we might, directors, what do you think if we, well, November, no, I think maybe in December, for the December meeting, maybe we want to put on the agenda the process we'll use to evaluate the general manager the following year, since, you know, we're getting close to the end of this year. And whether we want to use the same procedure we use this year or something different. And we may want to have that on the agenda of our December board meeting. So maybe we could put that on a committee meeting for December.
I think that's a good idea.
By that time, hopefully we will have completed the evaluation
Right.
for this year.
And you, Director Paul, you want that on the AdCom agenda? Because historically, the full board has discussed those kind of items. We've never taken it through AdCom. Not to say that we cannot. I'm just asking if that's what you want, is to be placed on the administrative committee agenda. Or do you want?
I think it's a good idea, just so we can maybe frame how we're going to put the question to the board, or how we're going to place it on the agenda, at least to that extent.
Okay. We'll do that.
Okay, thank you. Other suggestions for future agenda for the committee? Okay, any further business for this committee meeting? I see none. So thank you all for your hard work, for preparing and helping during the meeting. And the meeting is adjourned.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Good afternoon.